other people to join us. I would give a shout out in our room for people to know that we are already on. Like I said, we are getting into the meat of the matter. We are getting into the meat of the matter. We started this track last week, this cybersecurity bootcamp track last week. And remember, like I said, it is hosted by the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors for the University of Lagos, And we started last week. For last week, we had a welcome party. Then we also had a module 1 and a module 2 to lay the foundation. And I believe for those who are just coming on board today, you could get the link for the recordings from last week to be able to catch up. But like I said, gradually, we are getting into the meat of the matter. So let me put a shout out on the page to let everybody know that we are live and we are starting right away. Hello, everyone. We have started. Okay. So we'll be sharing some details. Okay. So once again, you are all welcome to this Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors for the University of Lagos bootcamp. And like I said, this is the cybersecurity track, and we're going to be learning a whole lot. And one thing that I would always emphasize, like I've said earlier when we started this, that getting into cybersecurity is not limited to those who want to be professionals, but everybody can benefit from cybersecurity because security is everybody's responsibility, even physical security. You can't just limit it to some persons. Yeah, there are some professionals, but security is everybody's responsibility. And that's why I have always in the past and even still presently developed special cybersecurity training for people from different walks of life. Currently, I'm working on a material for cybersecurity for project managers. Our project managers can deploy cybersecurity principles in their profession. And I'm currently working on a very brief write-up, which I will put on my LinkedIn page, in which we're going to look at how project managers can deploy security by design principles into their project management endeavors. Because one of the things we'll talk about today is actually security by design. Most people feel that security by design only applies to software developers or system designers or system developers. But security by design, one of those principles can apply to every area of life. So once again, I would say congratulations to you for being a part of this. Either you are looking forward to be a cybersecurity professional, or you are looking forward to deploy and apply the principles of cybersecurity into your daily life or into your current profession or into your current career pathway, you are still welcome all the same, because it's going to have application and we are going to be learning a lot. So once again, you're welcome. And I strongly believe and know that we will enhance our knowledge and enhance our skills with respect to cybersecurity. Yeah, okay, so let me bring up my PowerPoint. Don't mind me, I'm not always comfortable when I have an event and some people are around early and some people come in late. I believe for those who came in early, they should have their benefits, and those who came in late, they can join us up later. We'll still see how this will go. Okay, let me share my screen ahead. And since this is being recorded, anybody coming later can watch, because I also have some other things to attend to. Okay. Let me put it this way. Please kindly confirm if you can see the slide.
Yes, I can see the slide.
Very good. Please help me to also confirm, is the slide moving to the next slide or still on the same page?
It's still on the same page, sir.
It's still on the same page. Okay. I think I would have to avoid this because we had that same issues the last time. So I will stay with these. Okay. So once again, like I said, you're welcome to the cybersecurity track of the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors University of Lagos boot camp. Today is the module 3 of what we are going to be talking about. Today is the module 3 of the cybersecurity boot camp. For the module 1, we talked about some introduction. For the module 2, a little bit of some of the principles. And for the module 3, we are going to be looking at cyber attack, mitigation, and risk management. Now, before I go ahead, I need to make mention of these. In the past few years, I've always seen a lot of adverts, like I made mention of in our last schedule, in our last module. I see a lot of adverts encouraging people to come up on tech, encouraging people to embrace cybersecurity, and maybe they will tell you in 1 month, in 2 months, in 3 months. Those things are real, they are good. However, I am a realist too. I like to tell people the truth. I like to tell people the truth. Now, one thing that I would say is this: if you want to get into the pathway of cybersecurity from a non-tech background or from a non-engineering or non-IT background, one of the advice I always give ahead is this: there are some basics you need to learn, because those basics would create a platform where the knowledge of cybersecurity would spring up from for you. So if you are coming from a non-tech background or you're coming from a non-IT background and you want to learn about cybersecurity, I would encourage you, as you are learning about cybersecurity, there are some things you need to also learn alongside. And one of those things or one of those areas is you need to learn about networking or network, that is computer network. Now, remember, what you are looking at is cybersecurity. You need to understand how the cyberspace operates. You need to understand the network of the cyberspace. You know, it's just like you getting a physical security personnel for your streets or for your area or for your environment. One of the primary responsibility of that particular security personnel is to understand the road network. If it does not understand the road network, there is no way that particular security personnel can carry out effective security of that particular area. It needs to understand the road network. The same thing, if you are coming on board as a cybersecurity professional, I always advise, because when people ask what are the background knowledge that is important to have the basic understanding of networking. Now, you don't have to be a professional. Have the basic understanding of networking. It's very, very critical. Then I would also say, in the minimum level, also have an understanding of the cloud environment, not as a professional, but the basics that you need to understand, because the cloud today is one of the principal and one of the critical infrastructure when we are talking about cybersecurity, the cloud. And you know that everything is moving to the cloud. So there is no way you can be an effective cybersecurity professional when you don't have some basic understanding of how cloud computing works. So please take note of this. Learn the basics of networking, learn the basics of cloud, just the basics. You don't need the highly technical details, just the basics, you know. And when we talk about networking, have an understanding of how two computers connect to each other, have an understanding of what we call protocols and ports, you know, different protocols and different ports that those protocols connect with. So these are just the basics you need to understand. Now, when you understand this basis, it's going to help you, because there are some things we'll start getting into gradually towards the end of today into the Saturday session. And that's why I said something that we are gradually getting into the meat of the matter. Gradually gets into the meat of the matter. So I'm going to encourage you, if you are coming from a non-tech background or you are coming from a non-IT background, please just learn the basics of networking. It's going to help you a lot in understanding cybersecurity concepts, in understanding cybersecurity procedures and skills and best practices. You need a basic understanding of networking. It's something that if you dedicate your time, less than a month, depending on the frequency, something you can do less than a month. If you are doing a training of maybe once or twice a week, you finish it in less than a month. And if you embark on it on a daily basis in a week, and that's what I'm talking about, just the basics. You need the understanding of the basics. And please, let me also say this. You also need to imbibe an attitude of constant learning. One way you are going to do very well in this field of endeavor is don't try to know everything at once. Practice the principles of little drops of water makes a mighty ocean. Little drops of water. Just be consistent with your learning approach. Don't try to want to master everything, because I understand that some persons probably after attending the first module, second module, they will say, this thing is looking like Greek. No. Just try as much as possible. And remember this, I always emphasize this for every module that we go through. Your real learning starts after this class today. If you think all that there is to learn is just what we're going to discuss in this class, no, you're not getting it right. Your real learning starts after this class. So immediately after this class, take notes, write down, and as much as possible, go back and begin to expand on some of the points that we're going to present to you, some of the points we're going to talk about, some of the points we're going to discuss. Start expanding on them, start reading more, and that's the way to learn. You know, for me, when I want to learn about a new concept, when I want to learn about a new principle, one of the basic things I do is I gather lots of materials around me and I keep listening. I keep watching, I keep interacting with them, because eventually you become what you listen to. So the more frequently you listen to this concept, the more it becomes a part of you. So back into our module for today, like I said, after establishing the fact that you need the basic understanding of networking and the basic understanding of the cloud to do very well in cybersecurity, let's go ahead now. Now, you are going to say, do you mean I need to stop this particular training and go and learn about networking? No. Continue with this training, but as you go on with this training, by the side, begin to get materials and resources that talks about networking, that will teach you about networking, just the basics of networking. What I will do is after this particular session or after this module for today, I would share in our group page on WhatsApp the aspect and the areas to pay attention to as a cybersecurity professional. That is aspects in networking that you need to pay attention to, so that it's also going to guide your reading and it's going to guide your learning approach. So that as you are learning about cybersecurity, you're also learning about the basics of networking and you are learning about the basics of cloud computing. And let me, should I call this a secret? But let me share this with you. One of the factors that has helped me as an individual in cybersecurity is my background in cloud computing. It's a big plus for me. I remember when I wrote my CC exam, that is certified in cybersecurity exam from the ISC squared. When I wrote that exam, I strongly know that what made me pass that exam was my knowledge about cloud. If not for my knowledge about cloud, I don't think I would have passed that exam, because that is going to be the first major exam in cybersecurity I had to write. And I had very few weeks to prepare. So it's just important to realize that there are some of this residual knowledge you need to bring into cybersecurity. And I will tell you that it is something anybody can do. Anybody, I mean it. Even if you don't have an education, you can do it. Just be dedicated to learning. That's very important. So, like I said today, we are looking into cyber attack, mitigation, and risk management. And I will tell you this. As much as possible, if you can take your time to grasp and have a deep understanding of the content of what we're going to talk about today, I would say this: you would have covered a major critical aspect of cybersecurity. Because the reason why we're talking about cybersecurity is because of cyber attack. If there are no cyber attack, then we don't have any business being on this page. If there are no cyber attacks, we don't have any business having this discussion. But because there are cyber attacks and there are emerging cyber attacks, that's why we have to come to discuss this. So that's why I say this particular module is one of the critical learning components of cyber security. Now, what are the things that we're going to cover? We're going to look at categories and example of cyber attacks, which is the main focus for today. Then we're going to look at basic framework for mitigation, that is to prevent cyber attacks. Then we're going to look at risk management. Let me say this ahead. We're just going to look a little bit into risk management. However, on Saturday, we are going to look deeper into risk management framework, that is the RMF, which is very important in cybersecurity. Then we're going to discuss briefly about security by design. Remember, I talked about this when I was introducing this presentation. So we're going to look at security by design, and its focus on how we can incorporate security principle during system design. And remember, like I said, we're talking about system design is not limited to software, it's not limited to hardware, even the human system, organizational systems. We need to be able to factor in security by design into the systems. Then, most importantly, we are going to take an overview of emerging cyber threats. Emerging cyber threats. We're going to look at AI-driven attack, quantum computing-driven attacks, and the rest. I would say for now, we will not go really deep into cloud security and security automation, but I'll just mention some things very briefly about them, if the time permits. Good. Now, let's take note of this. When we start talking about categories and example of attack, it's important to take note of the fact that as a cybersecurity professional, understanding the different category of cyber attack is crucial for effective threat detection and prevention, and even threat modeling. The curriculum does not cover threat modeling. Threat modeling is a different talk entirely. But it's important to take note that having an understanding of those categories of cyber attack, it's important if you are going to be able to detect and prevent. If you are going to be able to detect and prevent. Now, what are some of these categories of cyber attack that we are going to be looking at in the next 1 hour? We're going to be looking at malware. We're going to be looking at phishing. We're going to be looking at DOS, that is denial of service. We're going to be looking at the MITM, that is man in the middle attack. We're going to look at social engineering. We're going to look at SQL injection. We're going to look at zero-day exploit, supply chain, and insider threats. However, let me say this. We will actually pick some of this category. The time frame we have would not give us the opportunity to exploit all this category, but from this category listed, we're going to pick a few categories and talk about them in the next 40 minutes. Okay, now let's talk about malware. I believe we are not hearing about malware for the first time. A lot of us will have heard about malware. Now, let's talk about malware. First, I always like to look at words and combination of words. It's important to take note that malware is taken from the word malicious software. So you can either say malware or malicious software. And take note of the color code I used. Malware, malicious software, the first M-A-L, then for the software, the last W-A-R. So that's where you have your malware from. So malware are also malicious software that are designed to harm a computer system and digital asset or network. Take note, the primary aim of malware is to either harm a computer system or harm a digital asset or network. Now, when we talk about harm, let me quickly focus on the digital asset aspect. It's important to pay attention to the fact that when a digital asset is stolen or taken away, it's considered digital asset or a harm to an organization, or the digital asset is restructured and let me put it this way, that at the end of the day, the integrity of that digital asset is questionable, then that digital asset could actually be harmed. Then also we look at network. So it's important to take note of this fact that malware can spread through various methods. They can spread through various methods. They can spread through email attachments. They can spread through infected downloads. They can spread through USB drives. And that's why it's not just all USB drives you pick up and you use. We're actually going to talk about that in some of the category of attack. And also they can be spread through malicious websites. And it's important to take note that as a cybersecurity professional, it's not all websites you click on. And if you want to create that awareness around, you also make people realize that it's not all web link or not all link that you click on, because some links are pure malicious links, links with malicious intent. So it's very important to take note. And we need to also be aware of the fact that malware can come in many forms. We're looking at the examples of cyber attacks under malware. That's what we're actually doing now, looking at the example of cyber attack under malware. We have viruses, and viruses are self-replicating programs that attach to other files. They don't stand on their own. They are attached to other files, and that's why we call them executable files. Now, it means that for the attack from a virus to be initiated, you need to execute the file. And to execute the file means you open a file. So immediately you open a file, and that's why most of the time, when there's going to be a malware attack, you will be the unsuspecting victim could be tricked into opening a file because it is an executable file or it's an executable attack. So it means for those kind of attack or attacks that are virus based, if you don't click on them, nothing is going to happen. I think we can get that now. If you don't click on them, nothing is going to happen. And that's why they always encourage you, don't click on a link you are not sure of because they might have viruses in them. However, it's important to take note that companies like Google, through their Gmail or their email service, they have incorporated very high-tech security system that scan every attachment that comes with it. And that's how I'm going to advise you. Remember, I said that this is a very practical training, very practical sessions, and you can start seeing real-life applications. When you open your Gmail and you receive a message that due to something, we cannot scan this attachment at this moment, please don't open that attachment yet until it is scanned and the system tells you that it is safe, at least to some extent, before you go ahead to open that, even if the attachment is coming from a friend that you know, because that friend that you know might not even be aware that is being used to get across virus to other systems. So it brings up an attachment, and sometimes the attachment can be even a PDF files. There are viruses that can be attached to PDF files. There are viruses that can be attached to other files. Remember, they are executable. So it means it needs to attach to a file or to a file. Let's call it now a file that you would open, that you would click on because they are executable. So, and that's one of the reasons I said that for viruses, without clicking on them, you are safe. Don't just click on them. Once you click on them, the self-replicating program is put in motion and it starts wreaking the havoc as much as possible based on the program that have been imputed into that particular executable files. Now we have worms. This is still under malicious software. We have worms. Now for worms are self-propagating programs that don't require an host file. So it means if a worm infiltrates a system, you don't need to click on it. It will start propagating. It will start propagating. Because of time, I will have shared some things, but probably on the on our page, I would share some video clips with us of how some attacks, some cyber attacks were implemented using worms. So worms, they are self-propagating. They don't require any host file. Once they enter the system, they are in the system. You don't need to click to activate them. They are already self-activated without necessarily executing anything. So take note of that, because I know sometimes, especially for those who might be preparing to write some cybersecurity professional exams, sometimes you could be asked about the difference between viruses and worms. Please take note of this major difference. Viruses are executable files, while worms does not require a host file to be able to get activated. Then we have Trojan. I know some of you have heard about Trojan. Trojan is a malicious program that can be disguised as a legitimate software. And that's why sometimes, for people who are close to me, there are some things I don't really do so much on my phone. I try as much as possible not to download games, because sometimes these are the ways that some of these Trojans get into your device. When you download things like games, you download softwares, especially from untrusted sources. Especially, there are sometimes some softwares, either Apple Store or what's it called again? Play Store, would decide not to host a particular software or particular application, and people just go to download straight from the web. You might be putting your device at risk. So it's very important to take note of these. Trojans can come in the form of legitimate software. Just, hey, this is a very interesting software. It's not available on Play Store. It's not available on Apple Store. Let me just download it and use the APK files. You might not know. You might be exposing yourself to a Trojan attack. And the funny thing about Trojan, a Trojan can be on your device for days, for months, and you may not notice it. Because sometimes what Trojan might do would just be to keep collecting information about you. They keep collecting as long as they remain on your device. You feel you are playing games, but they are collecting critical information about you. They are taking note of your digital footprint and getting ready for when a major attack will be launched. So that's why it's very important to be very wary and to be very careful where you get your applications and your software from, because you might be having Trojan downloaded on your device without knowing. Then also we have ransomware. Ransomware is also an example of that malware, and the way it works is your data is encrypted, then the person that has launched the attack, which we call the bad actor, demands for a ransom for decryption. So at the end of the day, the malware encrypts your data, and you feel, oh, this is a major data that I need. And at the end of the day, they demand for ransom. And once you pay the ransom, they give you the decryption key, or they tell you how to decrypt it. And this happens a lot. So it's very important to take note. That's why it's called ransomware. Now, this is also important for those who might be preparing to write one or two cybersecurity exam. Ransomware, it means you have to pay a ransom. And for you to pay a ransom, the person does something to your data, and you need to pay for the person to undo what he or she did to your data. So it's very important. They encrypt your data, demand a ransom, then they decrypt the data for you. And most of the time, if not even all of the time, but let me say most of the time, ransomware, people that deploy ransomware always request for payment through cryptocurrencies, because they believe that with cryptocurrency, you can't trace them. So it's important to take note. Some questions can also come in that direction. Then we have spywares. Now, this is a kind of attack that most people don't also pay attention to. Why? Because it may not interrupt your activities online. It may not cause an immediate damage to your data, to your device, to your critical infrastructure. But remember, from the word spy, it's a software that is secretly attached to your system or attached to your network, or sometimes even attached to your app, and it begins to monitor your activity. And remember, spyware is not an end to itself. Take note of that. It's one of the cybersecurity attacks that it is not an end to itself. It is an end to justify a means. So it's very important to take note that for spyware, the major purpose is it starts to monitor the user's activity for a bigger and a greater attack. Start to monitor the user activity. And sometimes the way spyware get into our devices is also when we download unverified softwares or unverified applications. And that's why one of the attitude and one of the behavioral pattern that you're going to pick up as a cybersecurity professional is to be wary of softwares and be wary of applications you put. You have to verify and double check to be sure that you are not installing a spyware on your system or on your device. And please, there are some language I would use to make us move fast. Once I say endpoint, when I say your endpoint is any of your device that you are using. This could be your phone, your laptop, your smart wristwatch, and all your IoT devices, they are all endpoints. So once I say endpoints, you know that I'm referring to all your devices, including your IoT devices. So please, let's take note of that. Then we also have another malware called hardware. Now, these are software that display unwanted advertisements. Unwanted advertisements. You know, there was this particular time, and I would say that if you're experiencing it, so just notice that there's likely to be an hardware on your device in which some ad will just start popping up, pop on your device. And you're like, where is this coming from? I did not request for this. They are not even related to what you even want. And sometimes they become very annoying. They become really, really annoying. So take note of that. It could be a form of cyber attack, hardware, the software that display unwanted advertisements on your endpoints. Then we have rootkits. You take note aside. Now, rootkits, I consider it as also one of the most dangerous malware. Now, why do I say it's one of the most dangerous malware? It's because it gives a administrative level attack to the bad actors. Now, it's a different thing that an hardware, spyware, or maybe a virus. They just maybe infect some files or infect some folders, and that's all. But rootkit attack will take over your entire system. Rootkit attack will take over your entire endpoint. Why? Because they would have administrators level access. And administrators level access is complete access of your system, even down to your OS, down to your operating system. So it's very, very important to make sure that you don't fall victims of rootkit attack. And take note, like I said, rootkit attack would give administrative level access to a system in which the bad actors would have access to uh, administrative level access in the system. So it's important to take note of that. And I would want to say this, that to protect against malware, it's important to use antivirus software. Keep your software up to date. Remember, number one, use antivirus software. Keep your software up to date. Don't even attempt to go online without an antivirus on your device or on your endpoint. Please, important to use antivirus software. Keep the software up to date. Be cautious about clicking on links. Remember, I said this repeatedly. Be cautious about clicking on links and be careful about downloading files. You need to verify before you download files. Then also avoid opening attachments from unknown sources. Somebody sends you a mail you don't know from Adam, and the person include an attachment, and the curiosity kills the cat in you begins to click here and there. I hope that curiosity will not eventually kill the cat. Okay. So it's important to take note, avoid opening attachment from unknown sources. And sometimes this attachment might not just be email. Sometimes they come in SMS. You just see an attachment in your SMS. You don't know who is sending it. You don't know the person. You just, maybe your curiosity wants you to click on it. Boy, you might be exposing yourself to a very big cyber risk. So it's important to pay attention to that. Another category we are going to look at is phishing. This is another category of cyber attack. Okay, I'm watching the time. This is another category of cyber attack. Now, phishing attack, it's a type of social engineering attack, because we are still going to look at social engineering, but I just need to mention this. Phishing attack is a type of social engineering attack in which an attacker would deceive you, would take advantage of that human psychology. We take advantage of that human psychology to deceive you or deceive the individuals into revealing sensitive information or performing action that could lead to financial loss or compromise individuals' personal data. So it's very important to take note that this is a category of attack that take advantage of social engineering. We're still going to look into details, a little bit into details about social engineering. Take advantage of social engineering to launch attack against individuals, against organizations, so that they can lead specific individuals to reveal sensitive information. Most of the information are regarded as personal identifiable information, PII. When it comes to the world of data security, we have PI, personal information, then we have personal identifiable information. This is not in the slide. That's why it's going to come to class. Now, a very brief information about this. Now, for personal information are information about you that cannot be used to streamline down to details about you. Let me give an example. Matthew Luwaniyi, that is a personal information, but it cannot be a personal identifiable information. Do you know the reason? Go online and type Matthew Luwaniyi. You are going to see different Matthew Luwaniyi. So it is not a personal identifiable information, but it is a personal information. Or you go on one of the radio stations and say, Matthew Luwaniyi, come to our radio station. We have an information for you. I tell you, you will have nothing less than 10 Matthew Luwaniyi that will come. And they are authentic, not that they are trying to play smart, authentic Matthew Luwaniyi. The same thing, you'll be very surprised. Go online or go on any of the radio station, just make an announcement. Maybe you say something like Priye Oraruga Priye, or you say something like Judy, or you call anybody like Ifeoluwa Akiwa, you'll be very surprised. Exactly. I don't know, maybe you've ever had that challenge when you are going to open an email and you type in your name and they say that email already exists. And you're like, what happened? Exactly your name. Why? Because your name is a personal information. It's not personal identifiable information. However, when we start talking about your name alongside your BVN, now when we start looking into BVN, we are now looking into personal identifiable information, PII, personal identifiable information. You look at BVN, you look at NIN, you look at social security number, you look at even bank account number. All these are becoming identifiable information, information that can be used to distinguish you from the crowd, information that can be used to distinguish your Judy from another Judy, information that can be used to distinguish your Bigwe from another Bigwe. So they become personal identifiable information. Now, these are the information that phishing attacks are always looking out for, not just the PI, but the PII, not just the PI, but the PII. So it's very important. Now, there are other categories of attack under the phishing attack. Now, we have a general email phishing. We have the email phishing, and email phishing has to do with sending fraudulent emails that appear to be from a legitimate source. As a matter of fact, except, permit me to use this expression, except you have the third eye. I mean, when I mean the third eye, except you learn how to see in details, you might not know a difference. Sometimes the difference will be in a dot. Just a dot. The difference might be in a dot. Sometimes the difference will be in an underscore. And if you are somebody that don't pay attention to details, you would miss it. And you think that the email is coming from a legitimate source. And sometimes it could be an email requesting for personal information or login credentials. Probably one of your close family friend that you can share your PII with, your personal identifiable information with. You just saw an email. Please, I need the PIN to our Netflix. I just saw it. Maybe you have a sister called Shinronke or Bigberonke, and you saw the email bigberonke@gmail.com, and you have seen that communication before, but without knowing that there was an underscore, and you think it's coming from your family or coming from your friend or coming from your boss, and immediately you are releasing that information. So that's called email phishing. Then we have spear phishing. Now, spear phishing is a phishing attack that is specifically targeted at an individual. Spear phishing is a phishing attack that is specifically targeted at an individual. Let's assume that someone had been looking at a way to get across to Judy. Now, what the person does is the person starts looking out for a lot of information about Judy, what Judy likes, what Judy dislikes, the school Judy attends, how many children Judy has, is Judy married or has a boyfriend, is Judy preparing to get married, and just find information that, oh, Judy is preparing to get married. Okay. You now find out, okay, what is Judy trying to get at this? Oh, Judy is trying to get a wedding dress. Ooh, okay. Let's do a spear phishing. Then they gather those information about Judy, send an email to Judy, and Judy will, oh, wow, this person really knows me. Wow. Oh, this is going to be a good offer. Probably they are selling that particular wedding dress for, let's say, let's say $200. They are selling for $200, $250, and the person say, "Oh, because you are such a wonderful friend, and I know you are preparing for your wedding, just send him $50. I would get it delivered to you. In fact, the $50 I will give it to the person that will make the delivery. I even want to just give you free." And then, wow, this person knows me so much. Wow, that's interesting. What, you send it, and maybe you send it, you can't hear from the person again. So that's spear phishing. It is targeted, aimed at specific individuals or specific organization, and sometimes it could be an email impersonating an executive or client. So it's very important to take note. Spear phishing is directional. It's specific. In fact, it would mention your name. It's different from the general phishing that is like throwing many hooks in the sea. But spear phishing is very, very directional. It's very, very directional, and it's important to take note. So it means when you receive an email mentioning your name and talking about some information about you, you know that you are being spearfished. You are being spearfished. So it's important to take note of that. Then we have wishing or willing. That's another kind of phishing. Wishing or willing. Now, this is a specific type of phishing attack that targets high-profile individuals like the C-suite executive, the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs, the CAOs, targeting the C executives. Now, this is a type of phishing attack that targets high-profile individuals, organizations, often referred to as whales. If you're in the business world and they say that guy is a whale, it means a high net worth, high profile individual. And the goal of wishing or the goal of whaling is to gain access to sensitive information or system within these organizations. And that's why there are sometimes, because of this security risk, there are some assets that organizations would not want even the CEOs to have. There are some ways, there are some, in fact, most of the time, the CEOs would not just open their email on any system. There are specific system that has been assigned to them by the organization. So that at the end of the day, if they are trying to open their email on that system, the email is not going to open, because it's part of the security measure that has been put in place to prevent wishing or to prevent whaling. Because remember, whaling is a phishing attack that is targeted at high profile individual or high net worth individual, but probably more of high profile individual because of the access that they would have within the organization, knowing that as the CEO, you have a lot of assets that other people in the companies don't have. So that's why they will target. Smishing. We have smishing. Smishing is a phishing attack via SMS, text message. That's phishing. Is a attack via SMS. So just take note of that. Then we have phishing. Phishing is a phishing attack via voice calls. Very important. Remember, smishing, phishing attack via text message. Phishing attack through voice call. Somebody calls pretending to be from banks. I know there was a period, I don't know, maybe it's still, but there was a period we experienced a lot of this from Nigeria, that somebody would just call you and, how are you? Why is everything? In a very friendly voice. Remember, phishing attack uses social engineering. They want to hack into our psychology. You say, how are you? What of your mother? It's been a long time. Oh, you must have been a grown child now. Oh, talk so in such a familiar voice, and the next thing they will say, hope you know who is talking. And by the time you try to think, you make a guess. And when you make a guess, say, hey, now you are talking, you got it right. I did not know you still remember me. And they want to become familiar. It's a social engineering attack. Remember, it's a social engineering attack. You want to get familiar. So that's phishing attack. That's phishing. Phishing is a kind of phishing attack. So it's important to take note. Now, I would quickly share a video with us to animate what phishing attack would look like. What phishing attack would look like. I will just share a video with us. Coming. Where's this? Okay. I would share a video very briefly. So just watch this. Just pay attention to this. This is an animated form to see what phishing attack looks like. Okay. Okay, the first user was thinking the email is virus. The second user thinks it's invoice. The first user thinks it's virus, you know, try to see if anything would move. You know, they were not sure. He's still going to try to test the water. Felt this is an email. This is an email. Let's open it. He felt this virus. Still behaves normal. Still behaves normal. Now see what happens at the end of the day. Exactly. 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 So I believe you pay attention to that. So it's important to take note of the fact that as much as possible, some phishing attack would not look like attack from onset. They would not look like attack at all. And you would think it's just a normal email. You would think it's just a normal email until you click it. And once you click it, Yoruba will say Otilo. Sorry for those who are non-Nigerian, who are non-Yoruba. Otilo means he has gone. So it's important to take note of that. Please kindly confirm if my PowerPoint is back on display. Is my PowerPoint back on display?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, now to protect yourself from phishing attack, you have to be very cautious of unexpected communications. Remember, they come unexpected and immediately they want to be friendly because they want to make use of social engineering. We're still going to look into social engineering and you understand better. So be very cautious of unexpected communication. You need to verify the sender's identity. Now, take note. Last week, we talked about some principles in cybersecurity, and one of them is the zero trust. The zero trust principle has to do with trust nobody, verify everything. I had a friend, I was discussing with a friend once, say, oh, all these cybersecurity people, they have trust issues. We don't have trust issues. It's part of our principles of operations. It's part of the principle that guides our operation. It is called zero trust. Trust nobody, verify everything. Even when you receive a call, we are still going to get to that. You receive a call and the voice sounds very familiar, verify. I remember I had an organization on campus, or I had a group on campus, and one of our members actually, I received a call. Some hours to the call, I saw this particular person in a location, and we just exchanged pleasantries. And the person actually called like 2 or 3 hours later to get some sensitive information with respect to the organization. And the person already understand that, yes, me, I'm a cybersecurity person and I practice my cybersecurity. And he just called and I was like, oh, don't mind me. Can you confirm when last we saw? Because I'm practicing zero trust and I am verifying explicitly. So I was like, oh, please don't mind me. Can you confirm when last we saw? We saw like 2 hours ago at this particular location. This was what they said. Okay, that's good. Then we can go on and can have information. Now, I would not only work based on the fact that it is the person's number that called me, and I would not only work based on the fact that the person's voice is familiar, and I would not only work on the fact that the person mentioned his or her name and is a name that I know. And that's why one of the things you need to learn, one of the principles you need to inculcate in cybersecurity is zero trust. Zero trust. Trust nobody, trust no source, verify explicitly. It's very important to take note of that. So that's why you need to be very cautious of unexpected communication and you need to verify the sender's identity before clicking on a link or opening the attachment. I received an email message from a very good and a close friend some times ago. And immediately I received the email, from the tone of the email, I told myself, this guy does not talk like this. You know, there are some friends you have, when they communicate with you, you know they are the one. I was like, but the email was his email. Honestly, I don't know how this person was able to pull up this trick. The email was his email. And immediately, before I take any step, I just picked my phone, you know, verify explicitly, zero trust principle. Hello, how are you? How is everything? I just want to confirm, like 30 minutes ago, did you send any mail to me? Say me, mail? I've not been with my phone or with my laptop in the last 2 hours. And I've not even emailed you in the last how many months? I said, I received a mail. I took the screenshot and sent it to him. He screamed, wow, just exactly his mail, and he never sent that mail. So it's very important for us to realize that the days we live in, the days of digital transformation, the days that everything is becoming, there's a lot of digital and technological advancement, we are going to be faced with more risk and more kind of attack in this way. And it's very important to avoid providing personal information over the email or phone unless you initiated the contact. You're the one that make the call. Then we always encourage use strong and unique password. I think in one of our modules last week or so, we talked about password policies. Use very unique password. We can't say this enough. Enable two-factor authentication. Let me say it again. I said it last week. If the only access to your email or to any of your online accounts or any of your online platform, if the only access, the only door you open to get into it is your password, you are playing a very big security risk. You have to enable two-factor authentication. It's very important. So that when that particular email or account is opened on another device, the two-factor authentication will be triggered. I can't say how much or how many times different persons have tried to hack my Facebook. I received the two-factor authentication notification. I was like, what's wrong? Why are these people trying to play smart? Now, for somebody to initiate accessing your Facebook account or any of your accounts, it means the person has hacked the account and the person has your password. So the only thing that will save is your two-factor authentication. So it's very, very important to initiate two-factor authentication on your critical infrastructures. And remember, always enable patching. That is, keep your software and operating system up to date. Be aware of common phishing, scams, and red flags. Now, denial of service attack. This is another category of attack. Let's take note of this fact that the main aim of denial of service attack is to prevent legitimate users from accessing your website or your application. In a very basic manner, for those of us that try to access website at certain times, most of these websites or web-based application have what is called bandwidth. And bandwidth has to do with the number of traffic, and we see traffic as persons or device. The number of traffic that particular web application can accommodate per time. And once the web application has exhausted its bandwidth, that is, the number of traffic is to the maximum, that particular web application will not have any entry again. Let me give an example. It's just a room. For instance, the room you are currently listening to this particular talk or listening to this particular class, there's a limit to the number of persons the room can take. People can start coming to the room. It's going to come to a time nobody can come into the room again. The room can't take anything again. And as such, nobody will be able to access anything in the room any longer. The same thing, our web application, there is a limit to the traffic it can take. Now, the way denial of service attack works is it will send so much false traffic to your web applications or to your websites that it would eventually prevent legitimate users from gaining access. Now, let me take this higher up with you to understand how this works to become an attack in the real sense of it. Now, a threat actor can set up a game. Let me tell you this. To be able to do well, it's funny, but that's the truth. To be able to do well as a cybersecurity professional, you need to think like the threat actors are functioning. And when we call threat actors, we are talking about hackers, about the bad guys. We call them the bad guys of the cyber world. You need to think the way they are thinking. You need to have an understanding of how they think to be able to prevent attack that they could initiate. Now, take note of this. If I am a bad actor, or I'm a threat actor, I'm a bad actor, or I'm one of the bad guys, or we also call them the black hats, and I feel that I want to carry out some malicious activities online, and I take note of a particular web application, or I take note of a particular online stores that people used to go to. And I feel I need to trick people. And one of the things I have to do first is I initiate a DOS attack. Remember, a DOS attack would send so much false traffic to that particular web application that the website would not be able to take in traffic any longer. Then, as I'm doing this, I already have a clone of that particular website. And probably there's a group that people belong to, and people are complaining, and we want to access this, we need to buy this, we can't do this. One of the agents of the threat actor will just say, there's an alternative website that you can access now, just like that website, clone just like the website, and you can go ahead to do all your details there. Now, because people are not having access to the real website, they would sure be tempted, especially when it has to do with things that are time frame, sales, and the rest. They want to go to the alternative website. And before you know, people's PII are already leaked out into the dark web. So it's just important to take note. Now, under the denial of service attack, we have some categories which we're just going to go to very briefly. We have the distributed denial of service attack. Now, this distributed denial of service attack is a DOS attack. DOS is denial of service attack that is coordinated by multiple compromised systems. Now, can I tell you a bitter truth? The phone, the laptop, the device, the endpoint you are currently using to attend this class can be a zombie in the hand of bad guys. Now, what do I mean? It means bad guys can use your device to attack another device or to attack a web application. Now, let me share with you how this could happen sometimes. And if you work online, you'll have noticed this. You were working on a particular website, or you are trying to access a website, then you see a notification that please confirm that you are human, or there are too many traffic coming from your device, or too many traffic coming from your IP. There are very strong indications that that particular device has been used as a zombie. Somebody is launching an attack and using your device to launch that attack. That is the distributed denial of service. That's the distributed denial of service, in which multiple systems are coordinated to send false traffic to a web application to weary out that particular server, so that at the end of the day, legitimate users will not be able to access it any longer. And sometimes we call this the bot attack. The bot attack. And the systems that are used and don't know they are used, they are referred to as zombie systems or zombie devices. So it's important to take note. Then we have the HTTP flood attack. This is sending large number of HTTP requests. And remember, I talked about you need to go and learn the basics of networking. When you learn the basics of networking, you are going to understand HTTP. But I believe basically HTTP is a protocol for accessing websites or protocol for accessing a particular web app. So they could send large number of false HTTP requests to a target system, and the primary target web server or application becomes overwhelmed more than what it can handle. And at the end of the day, legitimate user will not be able to access. And sometimes people just do it to just make a statement that I want to deal with this guy. And before you know, people keep complaining, we can't access your website, we can't access your website, what is happening, it's important to take note that it could be a kind of cyber attack. Then there's what we call the ping of death. It's a DOS attack. The ping of death is a DOS attack. Now, I'm going to try to explain it in the lowest possible manner, or in a manner that we can all pick, realizing that we are all entry-level cybersecurity professionals. So take note of that. So a ping of death attack is a type of DOS attack that exploits a vulnerability in the IP, Internet Protocol, to crash a targeted computer or network. Now, before ping of death attack is launched, the attacker or the bad actors, they would first discover vulnerability with the internet protocols of that particular application. And the way they would now crash the application, that at the end of the day, people will not be able to access it, is they are going to send what is called an abnormally large size of what is called the Internet Controlled Message Protocol, that is ICMP. Now, when an abnormally large size is sent, the particular server that would receive this particular request would not be able to process these large protocols. But what it will do is it may break it, send the first part, then the other part is sent later to now want to process the whole thing. And there's what you call pinging. You know, you ping IP address to be sure of connection. Now, immediately, pinging will start taking place. It's like going to be a circle. It will keep pinging. That's they call it the ping of death. It will keep pinging that particular web application. It will keep pinging it until there is no other space. You know, I'm trying to use very low level explanation. So until there's no other space for any other IP address to access that particular web application again. And that's why they call it the ping of death. The ping will keep going on in circles, and you are going to have what is called the echo request packets. The ping will keep going on like an echo. That's why they call it the ping of death. That is, they are going to ping that particular web application to death until it's not able to accept any other traffic again. So it's important to take it. There's what we call the slow low-risk attack. Now, the slow low-risk attack establishes a large number of slow connections to a server to consume its resources. Most of the time, automated tools are actually used to just slow up a server. And you discover that you want to access it, the thing is just rolling on the spot, rolling on the spot, rolling on the spot, rolling on the spot, rolling on the spot. And sometimes these are done when a particular bad actors wants to initiate a DOS attack against a particular organization, against the website of an organization, against the app, maybe web app of an organization. Wow, time had gone. Okay. Now, social engineering attack. We still have a lot to cover. Let's see how much you can move fast. We have the social engineering attack. Remember, I already talked about this. And this is a type of attack that is based on deception, and it explores the human psychology. It exploits the human psychology and trusts. Or it's just, apart from exploiting the human psychology, you are kind of tricked into trusting your source so as to reveal sensitive information. You know, like the example I gave. Don't you know me again? You know, they want you to trust, because they know without trust, you can't release those information. So they want you to trust. And sometimes they use different tactics like impersonation. I'm your mother's uncle. Or don't you know me? And they lead you into mentioning a name, and they say, and you say, Uncle Benga, yes, or Uncle John. Oh, hey, I did not know you recognize me. It's been a while. In fact, they will tell you that after this call, just send me your account. Let me send something to you. You know, just every step, every word is meant to gain your trust. To gain, because then that once they gain your trust, they can get information they want. So it could act in the form of impersonation or urgency, probably, especially in this part of Africa where it's difficult to say no to a boss. You just receive maybe a call. It might be a phishing call, or you receive an email and it's your boss and he's saying, I need the password to the office system now. You know, you don't want to do zero trust principle with your boss. But if the organization already has a security posture, already has a cyber security culture, your boss will not take it as an offense when you are verifying explicitly. It's important to take note. Now, we have pretexting. Pretexting is creating a false scenario to trick a victim into providing information or grant access. You know, sometimes the threat actors can impersonate your account officer to ask for your bank details. That's pretexting. Ask for your bank details in a guise to solve a problem with your account. You know, create a false scenario that your account is about to be hacked, and as your bank officer, I have to protect you. Please kindly follow me through with this process. And once you hear your account is going to be attacked, you know, your attention is up. This person wants to help you. He creates a false scenario and begins to trick you to providing information. Then we have tailgating. Now, tailgating is following someone into a secure area without authorization. I have to used tailgating to get at someone some time ago in a positive way, actually. There's this prof, is a professor of computer science that I've been trying to see because we're trying to develop some trainings and we're trying to put some things in place in the university. And he heads a particular section of the university. So I was just driving from the staff quarters saw him driving ahead. So I was driving close. That you know that he has actually taken note. I was driving very close to him, like bumper to bumper. He just branched off into the computer center. I branched off and followed him. He parked immediately and was heading to his door. And I quickly parked and I was trying to follow after him. And the door to his office works. It's this automated gate that you need either a card or a thumbprint to open, and I already know that. And within me, I know that once this person entered this place and that door locked, I will not be able to see. So immediately just entered, I just ran and followed him. And the first thing I told you that, so I'm very sorry for tailgating. But this is my reason, and this is what I wanted to do. So before he now told that he had actually been observing right from the road when I was following very closely. And he was surprised that I came to his car park. As he parked, it was like, oh, nobody is trying to follow me. So I just told him that I'm very sorry for tailgating. I needed to meet you and bring up some things with you. But in the actual real sense, it could be a real security threat in the real world. Tailgating could be a security threat. Even though there are also digital forms of tailgating, which I think we'll still talk about that. Then we have the shoulder surfing, somebody observing the password or sensitive information you are entering. And that's why you should be very observant when you are using your device in the public. Be sure nobody is looking over you. Very, very important. Then we have baiting. I talked about this before. Baiting is leaving a tempting item, such as USB drive, in a public place to lure victim. You don't understand that people do it on purpose, especially bad actors. They leave USB drive and you're like, who dropped it? Oh, let me see what's in it. And you're not having a good or a strong antivirus. And so it's very important to be wary of picking all those things. And remember, we already talked about phishing. And I told you it's a type of social engineering attack. Then it's important to pay attention to supply chain attack. Most organizations fall victims to cyber attack because of supply chain attack. Very, very critical. Because of supply chain attack. And it's important to take note that supply chain attack always target third-party vendors or suppliers that an organization relies on. And most of the time, if I am going to do a critical analysis or if I'm going to do a security audit of an organization, most of the areas that I pay attention to is the supply chain. Who are the third? Because you may have a very solid security posture, but your third-party vendors, your suppliers, they have very bad security posture. So it's very important. And sometimes by compromising these entities, attackers can gain access to the target organization and target organization systems and data. And most of the time, this supply chain attack is focused on compromising suppliers, targeting suppliers to gain access to their system and ultimately target the organization. For instance, attacking a software vendor to introduce malware into your product. If, for instance, a bad actor wants to attack you, sometimes want to attack your organization, they look for your third-party organizations that you work with, that maybe they supply softwares, they supply things to organization, and they look for a way to put in some malwares into that software because they know that software is landing in your organization's digital critical infrastructures. So it's important to take note of that. So we also have manipulating software updates. Sometimes modifying software updates to introduce malware through the back door. There are some updates that comes on your system that they are not real updates, but they are attack in disguise. There are sometimes you just receive a message, your system is out of date, and in the next 10 minutes it may crash. Maybe call this system to be helped, or send an email to this to be helped, or click on this link to follow the next step to prevent this attack. Don't follow the process of OT law. Then we have targeting third-party service provider. This process focus on attacking service provider that handle sensitive data for a target organization. Then also sometimes they exploit vulnerabilities in a supplier system. And you know that most of the time, what threat actors always look out for is vulnerabilities. They look out for vulnerabilities. Zero-day attack. This is very, very critical. Zero-day attack, as the name implies, is when bad actors exploit unknown vulnerabilities to an organization. Maybe vulnerabilities in software, in hardware, or even in the system. They exploit unknown vulnerabilities. Now, standard organizations would have cybersecurity teams that keep the organization running and make sure that the cyberspace of the organization is secure. However, there are some blind spots sometimes for these cybersecurity teams. And those blind spots, once they come in with any vulnerability and threat actors discover that vulnerability before your security team, that is called a zero-day attack. Just as simple as that. So a zero-day attack is an attack in which the bad actors discovered the vulnerabilities in your system before your cybersecurity team discovers that. That's called zero-day attack. And this vulnerability are often discovered and exploited by attackers before the organization can either recognize it or release an update to address that particular issues. What I would encourage you to do after now, go on Google and type in examples of zero-day attack. Example of zero-day attack, and you discover that sometimes this attack comes as a result of delayed updates, which we call patch. So it's very important we take note of that. Okay, let's go on. Because of our time, then we have insider threats. Insider threat is one of the most ignored yet critical attack in cybersecurity, and very, very effective attack in cybersecurity. Now, insider threats are security risk that is posed or that are posed by individual within the organization. So the attack is not coming from outside the organization. The attack is from within the organization. And why it's become critical is most of the time, this particular insider threats, they have access that outsider threats don't have. They have authorized access to the system, to the data, to the critical infrastructures that outsiders don't have. And this individual can sometimes take note of this. It could be intentional or unintentionally compromise the organization security structures. So it's important to take note. Now, what are these examples of insider threats? We have malicious employees. These are employees who are very intentional with harming the organization. Like an employee stealing data to sell on the dark web. They steal data from the organization to sell on the dark web. Then we have negligent employees. These are employees who accidentally cause harm to the organization. They don't know. So sometimes they click on a phishing link. And once they click on a phishing link, it spreads to the network. And one of the ways I was discussing with one of my students during the week, and we're looking at subnetting. That's why I say you need to learn some basics about networking. And I begin to make him to see the security benefits of having a network architecture that comprises of a subnet. Now, when this kind of attack from a negligent employee takes place, if the organization uses a network architecture that practices subnetting, that particular attack can be contained in that particular subnet, especially when accidentally such staff click on a phishing link. But if it is not a subnet architectural network that is being practiced, that attack can actually filter into the entire network of the organization and cause more harm. Then we have disgruntled employees. That's employees who are not happy with their work. They can become a source of concern to the organization. Then former employees, some former employees still have access. Even though they don't work in the organization, they still have access to the data, they still have their password, and that shows that the security posture of that organization is warped, is really bad. Because once an employee leaves an organization, the access should be denied. Access to anything should be denied. I was reading through a report. of a university in the US while they were doing an auditing of their critical infrastructure, doing an auditing of their security posture. They actually discovered that employees that has left the university for like 5, 6, 7 years still have access, administrative access. The only luck they had was these employees were not malicious employees. If they were malicious employees, they would have done something really bad and terrible. And remember, we have talked about third-party vendors. They could be insider threat too. Then do you know that family and friends of employees can be bad actors or can be insider threat? Let me not say bad actors. They can be insider threats. You know, when individuals who have access to organization system through their employees, they have assets through the employees. Family and friends have access to organizations, data organizations, critical infrastructure through their family, through their friends. Then I would round up for insider threats with the insider threat as a service. Now, I need to make you to realize this, that there are organizations that provide what is called insider threat services to other organizations. They are bad actors. I would say that directly. But as cybersecurity professional, we are learning, you need to have a knowledge about this. There are sometimes some recruiting agencies, on the background or undercover, they are actually offering the insider threat as a service. Maybe an organization A needs to steal information from organization B. The organization that is offering insider threat as a service would project a particular staff as one of the best to be employed for organization B. And the main purpose of that staff is to steal information from organization B. But organization B will just see that particular person as just a staff without knowing that is a staff on a mission. So they offer insider threat as a service. Okay, now it's important we take note of this, that cyber attacks often aim to compromise one or more elements of the CIA triad. Please, for those who are coming for the first time, last week we talked about the CIA triad, which is one of the basic framework principles in cybersecurity. And the CIA triad has to do with confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And that's why cyber attacks that we have discussed today, most of the time, they aim to compromise one or more elements of the CIA triad. That is, either they aim to compromise confidentiality, they aim to compromise integrity, or they aim to compromise availability. I'm going to give you one example. If you look at the DOS attack, the DOS attack, you notice that one element of the CIA triad that the DOS attack compromise is the availability, because it's not going to make the particular web app or the critical infrastructure available to legitimate user. Availability. They send false traffic, use up all the bandwidth that is available, that legitimate users are not able to access that particular resources. So it's important to take note of this. Now, there's an assignment you are going to do, which should be submitted before 6 p.m. tomorrow, Friday. There's an assignment, and this is the assignment. And I'm also going to send the assignment to the WhatsApp group. And the assignment is for each of the categories of cyber attack that we have discussed. State the element of the CIA triad that will be compromised. No, CIA is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So which of these will be compromised? Which of these will be compromised? So please send your answers to my email as stated, and use your name as the subject of the email. And please submit on or before 6 p.m. tomorrow. Very critical. So let's go ahead. Now, basic framework of mitigation. Please, can I get water, please? Please just give me 1 minute. Thank you. Okay, basic framework of mitigation and risk management. This particular slide that I have displayed, like I always say, we can talk about this for the next 1 week. It's a major area in cybersecurity, and I can't pick this. It's very important. Please help me to reach because we cut my network. So we are looking at, please, am I still on? It's already showing. Can you still hear
Yes, sir.
me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you
Yes,
very
we can hear
much.
you,
Thank
sir.
you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are looking at the basic framework of mitigation and risk management in cybersecurity. Basic framework of mitigation and risk management in cybersecurity. Now, mitigation is a process in cybersecurity in which we try as much as possible to reduce or prevent, mostly reduce the impact of attack when attack takes place. And that's why we are looking at this framework. And that's why it's going to also lead us into risk management. But like I said earlier on, I will focus some more on the risk management framework when we meet on Saturday. Now, what is the basic framework of mitigation in cybersecurity? There are 5-step approach. And please take very good note of this. There are 5-step approach for the framework of mitigation in cybersecurity. Number one, we have identify and assess the risk. You need to identify and you need to look at, for instance, look at your organization. You say, what are the risks in this organization? And you know one risk that sometimes organizations don't pay attention to? Poor knowledge of how to stay safe, poor knowledge of cybersecurity can be a risk in an organization itself. Other risk that could exist in an organization is when the staff are not able to understand what phishing emails are. Those are simple risks. Other risks could be non-functional firewalls. Other risks could be the endpoints. Remember when I say endpoints, could be your laptop, your phone, the endpoints that connects into the organization network, most of them have expired antivirus or expired software or software that are not updated, because softwares or operating systems that are not updated, they are risk in themselves with lots of vulnerabilities. So it's very important to take the first step to identify and assess the risk. You have to conduct a thorough assessment to identify potential threats, identify vulnerabilities, and their potential impacts. Then after identifying this risk and this threat, you need to go through a process of prioritization. You place priority on which risk is higher than the other. You arrange it on the risk based on likelihood and severity. Those are the two variables that you use in prioritizing your risk: the likelihood and the severity. What is the likelihood of an attack taking place, and what is severity in case an attack takes place? That's number one. Then number two, you have to implement controls. I want you to pay attention to this aspect of controls because it also has use case application even outside the mitigation framework. Now, when we talk about implementing controls in cybersecurity, we have different categories of controls, specifically like 3 categories of controls. We have the technical controls. Take notes, in one of the modules, we are going to be looking at the technologies in cybersecurity. So we have the technical controls, which has to do with the firewalls, which has to do with the intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention system. We have the encryption, we have the access controls. These are technical controls that you put in place for mitigation in cybersecurity. Then we have administrative controls. Administrative controls will include trainings, policies, procedures, guidelines to manage securities. These are administrative controls. Then we have physical controls, security guards, surveillance system, physical access controls. Now, these 3 categories of controls must be initiated, must be put in place for effective cybersecurity mitigation system. Very important. Then we have monitor and review. You need to keep monitoring. Use tools and techniques to monitor the network traffic. We're talking about network again. That's why I said you can't do well in cybersecurity if you don't have basic understanding about network. You just have to. Those are some of the knowledge you need to work in cybersecurity. Remember, I said you don't need to be a professional, but just have the basic understanding in networking, because you need to understand how to monitor network traffic, system logs, and security events. I don't mean to scare you, but it's also a function of the aspect of cybersecurity you want to function in. I have carried out some cybersecurity activities that I had to use my SQL knowledge, that is database processing, database management. I had to use my SQL knowledge. So if I never had exposures about how to use SQL carry that activity, especially when you are dealing with thousands of logs. You can't be using your eyes to look at the logs and to see the one that is not in the proper shape. You have to do some sorting and analysis using your SQL commands. Then we have regular reviews. You have to conduct regular and periodic reviews to assess effectiveness of implemented controls. That's very critical. Now we have the high R, incident response. What a firefighter is to our regular world, that's what incident response is in cybersecurity. Incident response deals with once there's an attack, they act immediately. And that's why every organization must have IRT, incident response team. And in incident response, we have preparedness. You have to develop an IR plan. Very important. You have to develop, and when you go into more advanced cybersecurity training, you look into what are IR plans like and how to develop an IR plan, incident response plan for an organization. You have to take note of that. Then you have to look into tools and processes to use to detect security incident, because sometimes there could be security incidents in the organization and people don't detect it on time until it is late. Then we have to look into the process of eradication to remove the threat and restore the system to a secure state. And this one, you have to be talking about your backup. If you don't have backups, you can't restore system to the working state. And that's why when we are doing organizational audits with respect to cybersecurity, one of the things we look at is what is your backup plans like? What are your backup? What are your backup sources? What are your backup technology? Because if you don't do backup, you have a very poor security posture. It's a real risky game, especially when you deal with critical infrastructures or critical data. Then we talk about recovery, and that's the process of restoring the operation and implementing measures to prevent reoccurrence. And at the end of the day, we also look at continuous improvement. Without continuous improvement, your basic framework for cybersecurity mitigation is not complete. There should be continuous improvement. There should be a feedback loop. There should be a period in which you gather feedback from security incidents and assessments. Then after this, you update the controls. For instance, maybe from your feedback, you discover that there's an issue with your technical control. You update the control. From your feedback, you discover that there's an issue with your administrative control. You conduct trainings. Probably you discover that the attack on your organization was from a phishing link that a member of staff clicked on. Then you need training for member of staff on how to recognize phishing emails. And that's part of the update and controls that you put in place. Now, another aspect you need to pay attention to is security by design. It's an area I have a very strong interest in, because security by design is a principle in cybersecurity that would help you to prevent an incident or prevent a cyber attack before it occurs. Now, it has to do with incorporating security principles into the development process of your software, your hardware, or your system right from the very beginning. Security by design ensures that security is not an afterthought. What happens in most organizations is after they are through the design, they now begin, oh, how do we secure this software? No. The security by design principles begin to consider the security of that software right from the design stage. Now, when you apply the security by design principles into your organization, for everything you do, you ask yourself the question, how do we incorporate security right into the beginning from the design of this particular system or this software? And remember, I said something that most of the time, this principle is not only limited to software, it's not only limited to IT system as it were. You can also have it in system, especially for professions like project management. Project managers need to realize how to implement security by design into their process of developing project management systems or deploying projects. Very, very essential to pay attention to that. Because of our time, I can't go into details about this, but just take note that basically security by design factors in security right into the beginning of designing a software, a hardware, a system, a process. For instance, the organization, you are developing a process. You need to take into cognizance security by design. Security should not be an afterthought. I will repeat that again. Security should not be an afterthought. It should be factored into the very beginning of the design for the process or the system. Now, we are rounding up now, and I would not round up if I don't talk about emerging cyber threats. This is very, very critical. Now, as technology evolves, so do method and capabilities of cyber criminals. These emerging threats present significant challenges to the current cybersecurity landscape. Say that we are more faced with that challenge in this day and age. We are faced with this challenge in this. Now, we have what is called the AI-driven attacks. Most of us, we know the capabilities of what AI can do. Now, AI in the hands of cyber criminals is very, very delicate. And that's why with AI, they can draft very compelling phishing email. For those who have gone through training, sorry, for those who have gone through training about phishing email, one of the characteristics you'll be told about phishing email is to check for grammatical blunder. But I tell you that that does not work again with the advent of AI-driven attack. They would use AI to craft a very succinct and very clear and very high-level email that you will not notice any error there. Because I remember when we had our training, they would tell us one way to recognize a phishing email is check for spelling, check for grammatical blunders, and the rest. But AI-driven attacks that comes or that develop phishing email don't have all such features. So it's just important to take note of that. There are lots and lots we can talk about this, but AI-driven attack has taken cyber attack to another level that we as cybersecurity professionals, we also need to up our game. Then quantum computing. Quantum computing in the hands of cyber criminals is a big risk to our cyberspace. Now, why do I say that? Remember, I talked about encryption. Encryption as one of the ways to prevent bad actors from accessing a particular data. But do you know that with quantum computing, you can decrypt some encrypted data with quantum computing? You can decrypt some encrypted data. So when you think that, yes, what security measure do you put in place? Oh, I encrypted the data. With quantum computing, that data can be decrypted without having access to your keys. You know, when we encrypt data, you have your encryption keys. Without having access to your encryption keys, quantum computing will decrypt that data. So it poses a risk and is one of the emerging threats in the cyberspace. Then we have deep fakes and synthetic media. Deep fake is, for those who don't know, deep fake is something that is not real appearing real. Let me say maybe a video that is not real appearing real, and you think is that real person that is talking. Okay, I'm trying to see if I could pick up an example of what a deep fake is. I don't know, maybe many of you or some of you have seen a video of maybe Barack Obama talking. I think I can play that video for you as we start to get ready to deep fake video. Okay, I hope you'll be able to hear this. Let me share this with you. We are close to rounding up. I'm also late for my other engagements. So let me share this video with you very briefly. This this. Okay. Okay, so just follow very closely and listen to this.
That really gained national prominence was a video of purportedly of Barack Obama.
How about this? Simply, President Trump is a total and complete dip.
But it was made by the comedian Jordan Peele. Deepfake video of a public figure can look. The problem is this video looks pretty real. So sometimes you'll see little inconsistencies between when you hear the audio and when the lips move. Sometimes the face might appear one of the first.
Okay, now I'm just trying to show you an example of what a deep fake is. A deep fake is something that is fake appearing as if it is real. Something that is fake appearing as if it is real. You see somebody talking. Somebody can take a video of you, not just a video. I'm not talking about a video. Somebody can actually take a picture of you and create a deep fake out of it. And you will see yourself saying something you never said. And that's why, you know, day and age, I always tell people, don't believe everything you see online. Especially as a cybersecurity professional, don't believe everything you see online. Verify and verify explicitly. Then we have IoT vulnerabilities. IoT is Internet of Things. You know, Internet of Things device, they are one of the most vulnerable endpoints that cyber attackers or threat actors can use to launch their attack. Now, as these emerging threats continue to evolve, it is crucial for organizations to adopt proactive and adaptive cybersecurity measures to defend against the next generation of cyber attack. Now, this includes investing in quantum resistance encryption. Remember, I said there are some encryption that quantum computing will break, but we need to start investing in quantum resistant encryption and enhancing AI-driven defensive strategy. Now, for those who are already into cybersecurity or who have some exposures, you are going to discover that even in cybersecurity, we have to start using AI too for defense. We have to start using AI for defense. We have to start using AI to monitor, to evaluate traffic, to be able to beat the bad actors. Very essential. And concluding thoughts, in today's digital world, understanding various cyber attacks and implementing a robust mitigation framework are essential for defense. Effective risk management will help us to identify, remember, you identify, you analyze, and you respond to potential threats, while security by design integrates protection from the onset. So what we want to do in cybersecurity is we don't want security to be an afterthought, especially with the principle of security by design. We don't want security to be an afterthought. We want to encourage organizations to implement security right from onset. Even as we are implementing security from onset, we still need to practice effective risk management to keep identifying, analyzing, and responding to potential threats. And with the rise of threats like AI-driven attack and quantum computing that we just talked about, we need to stay proactive and adaptive in the long term so as to safeguard future technology. Thank you very much for your time. Like I said, I'm supposed to be away for some other engagement, but thank you very much for your time. I appreciate, and I would want to take a few questions before we call it a day. Okay, I have some hands up. If you have questions, just raise your hand. I would recognize you. Thank you very much. Thank you for clapping. I appreciate that. Okay. Abdul, please go ahead and ask your question. You are recognized.
Good evening, Mr. Matthew. Thank you very much
Good
for
evening.
class. Sir, please, you mentioned the use of antiviruses and updating the system. So I want to ask, like, apart from the normal Windows Defender, are there any other antivirus that you recommend that are very good for like the system?
You want me to market antivirus? Okay, actually, do you know what? Let me tell you the truth. Free antivirus is good. Paid antivirus is better. I'll be very sincere with you. there are features that paid antivirus have that free antivirus don't have. And that's why I would encourage you, lay your hands on any paid antivirus and just subscribe, especially if you know you carry out critical work online. Please don't joke with your security. At a time, I don't know of now, at a time, I know especially even my organization had to do a general subscription for Kapasky. Kapasky was a choice of my organization because everybody knew that Kapasky was up to their game. Yeah, so Kapasky was a choice of my organization. They had to do an organizational subscription. So I would say Kapasky is good. Then there's this other, what's his name? There's this other one I'm trying to remember. I subscribed at the time. They allow you to subscribe, that your subscription can cover like 3 devices. I'm trying to remember the name of that particular antivirus. But I would encourage, by the time you start having some critical work online, I would encourage, leave free antivirus, go for the paid one, alongside your Windows Defender, So pay attention to that. Thank you very much. Okay, Praise, you have your hand on. Please unmute and ask a question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
At the beginning of class, you talked about an example of malware, the hardware, and you mentioned that there are certain ads that just pop up, but you did not elaborate on that. So my question is that there are several advertisements that probably you're surfing the internet, you're browsing a particular site and they just pop up, and on some applications that probably subscribe to these advertisements, or do you mean when all those advertisements that just pop up on your phone, whether you're surfing the internet or not?
Okay. Let me throw some light on that. Hardware can actually be used maliciously, then it could also be used for good intents. Hardware can be used maliciously and also for good intent. There are some persons, they use it for good intent, just for simple adverts, but an hardware is an hardware. And malicious actors can take hold of it and push adverts repeatedly, either to frustrate your browsing experience or to cause you to click on a link to, like we say in Nigeria, to where I don't know, keep taking you to where you don't know. So it could be used in a good way, but it could also be used by malicious actor, but it remains a malicious software.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, any other question? Like I said, I would share a screenshot of the assignment we have to submit before the close of work tomorrow by 6 p.m. tomorrow. I'll share it on the WhatsApp page in case you missed it. And if you want us to discuss, you can ask questions on the WhatsApp page. I would say thank you very much for being a part of this. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your dedication to commit to learning about cybersecurity. Remember, I do not have the aim to be a cybersecurity professional. Everybody needs to learn about cybersecurity. So thank you very much. I appreciate you. Don't forget, we are going to meet again on Saturday by 4 p.m. to look at cybersecurity framework, which is very critical. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Bye-bye.